Over the past decade, esports has come a long way from its grassroots origins. You take a look at the League of Legends scene of yesteryear back in 2011.
Fnatic going to win the Season 1 championship if they can hold on. This Nexus will go down. Congratulations to Fnatic.
And you take a look at the esports scene now.
Finale du Summer Split de la LPL, Fan plus Funny!
You know, this is a game that's here to stay. And with lots of other esports games on the rise, there's been a real conversation brewing in the community about franchise versus non-franchise esports, and what's best for the industry as a whole going forward. What exactly are non-franchise and franchise esports, you might be wondering? It's alright. In this video, I'll go over exactly what they are, give you some examples, and talk about the pros and cons of each of them. And at the end of the video, I'll give my opinion for what format I believe is the best for esports going forward. So without further ado, let's talk about franchise esports, shall we? So what exactly is a franchised esports league? Well, a franchise league in general, you could relate back to the NBA, NHL, NFL, or other leagues like that. Essentially, in a franchise league, there's a central coordinator, or in this case, a franchiser, who offers up a selected number of available spots for the league. Each spot in this league will come at a certain price tag, and often, in these cases, after spending a few $1,000,000 for a franchise spot, a franchisee who bought into the league will earn the perks of being a permanent member. Now, one of the great things that come with this, from a franchisee perspective, are the sponsorships and advertising support that you receive from the franchiser. There are a bunch of other benefits that come with being in a franchise league. One of the big ones is that the league itself is a lot easier to run a regular season out of. With the teams always being consistent, there's no need to worry about what teams are going to qualify for the league this year, and if you're going to be able to construct a regular season bracket as well as a playoff bracket and how that will play out. Every year it's consistent with the same teams vying for the same championship at the end. Another thing that can often be overlooked with franchise esports is the fact that brand sponsorships in franchise esports leagues is significantly safer than sponsoring non-franchise leagues. If you're a brand that sponsors a team in a non-franchised esports league, you're effectively gambling that that team will be able to make it into and stay in that league for a prolonged period of time. And this is why franchise esports can appear a lot safer to brands who are looking to sponsor a team. Because when they sponsor that team, they know that that spot will always be secured in that league. A great example of a franchise esports league is the NA LCS, also known as the League of Legends Championship Series. It may seem like franchise esports are the way to go moving forward, but let's take a second to talk about non-franchise leagues and the benefits they offer. Firstly, non-franchise esports leagues have a much lower barrier of entry than franchised esports. As I mentioned before, in franchise esports leagues, some of those spots to have a team in that league can go for upwards of tens of millions of dollars. And that's where non-franchise esports leagues really shine. With most of these leagues having open qualifiers in some sense, if you have the skill and you have a great team, you're able to make it into the spotlight at the top of the league if you have the ability, regardless of the money you have to spend on your team. If you're familiar at all with Rocket League, you'll know that they have this same type of non-franchised esports bracket, where any team can effectively qualify for the finals. And the reason I bring this up is because in 2019, we had the Peeps, and if you're familiar with Rocket League, you'll know that they were effectively a team of nobodies that came in and completely reshaped the meta gameplay around Rocket League. They did this by qualifying all the way through the 2019 DreamHack Pro Circuit tournament and taking it all against the best teams in the world. Now, the reason this is important is because there were open qualifiers, the Peeps were able to make it all the way to first place in DreamHack. In a franchise league, they don't have the money to scrape together to play against the best teams in the world. A bunch of teens can't pool together $10, $12, $15 million in order to play in these tournaments. And the whole point I'm trying to make here is, if the RLCS was a franchise esports league, it's very possible we never would have seen the Peeps rise to fame, or the meta shift around Rocket League and demos. Another thing that a lot of teams appreciate in non-franchise esports leagues is that they have a bit more freedom to do what they want to do, because contractually they're not as locked in as teams that are in the franchise and thus must follow what the franchise wants for them. So both franchise and non-franchise esports leagues have their own benefits and drawbacks. So in order to better understand these league structures, let's take a look at a few examples, like the ones I brought up earlier, the NA LCS and the RLCS respectively. So let's start with the NA LCS. If you're a longtime viewer who's been watching the NA LCS for a while, when I said before that they're a franchise league, you might have been scratching your head. You might be thinking, well, I know teams like Cloud9 and TSM and Team Liquid and Immortals that had to battle for their spot in the NA LCS. How can that be a franchise league? Well, you're actually not wrong. But in 2018, the NA LCS decided that they would have an application process that would decide 10 teams that would become permanent partners of the league. And what that meant was that teams would no longer have to face relegation or the promotion tournament in order to get into the leagues. There would just be permanent teams that would stay within the league or be bought out by another organization. And this change came with a lot of benefits, with teams selected to be into the LCS entering into a revenue sharing partnership with Riot Games. This meant that league-based revenues, which included media deals, team-branded digital goods, sponsorships, and merchandise, would be shared among the teams and Riot. This partnership also allowed teams to essentially triple the minimum salary for their NA LCS players from $25,000 to $75,000 USD. Along with this, players also got additional bonuses based on the league revenue for that year. All these benefits did come at a cost though, with a $10 million price tag to enter the franchise league. Now, explaining any league format, whether it be sports or esports, can often be a little bit confusing, but I'm going to do my best to explain the NA LCS structure in the next minute. So the NA LCS begins with a lock-in kickoff tournament, consisting of a group stage and an 8-team single elimination bracket. The regular season is divided into double round robin spring split and a triple round robin summer split, for a total of 225 games. Teams are then ranked by win percentage, with ties split by tiebreaker games if necessary at the end of the regular season. The current playoff format, introduced in 2020, is a modified double elimination tournament, with the top 6 teams seeded in the winners bracket and 2 additional teams seeded into the losers bracket. The winners bracket is played as a regular knockout tournament, with defeated teams falling to the losers bracket. The top teams from winners and losers brackets play against each other in the grand final. The winner of the summer split, along with the runner-up and third place team, go on to qualify for the annual League of Legends World Championship. The NA LCS is a pretty good example of a franchise regular season and playoff format. Let's take a look at the RLCS to get a better understanding of what a non-franchise esport format might look like. Now, the RLCS has had its fair share of changes to its format throughout the years, but this year, the RLCS is getting its biggest format change in its history. It'll be switching from a league play to an open circuit-based format. Essentially, there's going to be 3 different seasons: fall, winter, and spring splits, all leading to the Rocket League World Championship. Now, teams can auto-qualify to regional events via their performance at the previous regional event. But this is where things get interesting, because each regional event begins with an open qualifier on smash.gg, meaning that the first regional event of the year, all teams must play in the open qualifier, which means nobody is safe from elimination. Now, for each of these seasonal splits, there's going to be 3 regional events that will lead into a major at the end of the split. Now, every regional event and every major event in each split will have 16 teams total. Now, the really wild thing is that each of these splits will feature a different type of format where teams will be able to earn points at each event, with majors being heavily weighted over regional events. Now, these points from regional events and majors are going to be used to qualify for the Rocket League World Championship. Now that we've talked about franchise and non-franchise esports leagues and formats, as well as some examples, I want to tell you why I think that franchising is the future of esports. I believe in the early stages of an esports scene's life cycle, it's important to have a non-franchise scene. However, if we want to see esports really rise into the mainstream in the public eye, we need to follow the money. Having a franchise league allows brands to feel a lot more secure when investing in sponsorships. And with in-game digital kits becoming a major revenue generator for a lot of these teams, I see a huge opportunity for franchise teams to potentially work closely with the game developers in the league, and maybe end up in a situation where the teams themselves have their own in-house developers for game content. I think there are a lot of non-franchise leagues like the RLCS that could learn a lot from Riot Games and their model of converting non-franchise esports into franchise esports. But what do you think? Does the future of esports lie in non-franchise or franchise esports? If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.